Happy Friday and welcome to the Midnight Crossover Show. With every Friday, we get together with Andre from up north, NoCal, as we call it. I'll bring him in and Brad in a second. You made it to the beginning of the weekend. Congratulations. Uh, Hope everybody's doing well. Tonight's show and every show up until April 5th is brought to you by Monkey Man. Only in theaters April 5th. If you've been watching the show, we've played trailers on there. Brad got us kicked off the internet last night because he played a trailer with Phil Collins in it. I'm just kidding. It's not his fault. They ended up correcting the issue, so the show is up in its entirety. Cannot wait for this movie. If you are local here in Las Vegas on April 3rd, I'm sending a bunch of people to go see this movie. Hit me up. Use any of our social media. Let me know if you want in, and I'll make sure you're there. Seeing it before everybody else. And on that note, let's bring in Wingman number one, Wingman number two. How are you both doing tonight?
I'm good. Considering I got us kicked off last night.
Yeah. And
you see my camera is like at an angle. You see it? I feel like it's crooked. I don't know.
It's subtle, but I think I can kind of see it.
It's subtle. You know what it is? My dog's in here. Where's she? My dog's in here because my wife and kids were out of town, and so she was snooping around over there, and she hit the cord, and it was like, boop. I was like, oh no! So I'll have to fix that later. I'm just gonna roll with it.
Perfectionist. It looks straight enough.
Yeah, whatever.
Like I said, mine's always crooked. Like I said, I sound good now. Thanks.
But you got a new mic. What kind of mic is that?
This is a AT2020 something. Yeah, hold on. Let's see.
When did you get that?
Audio Technica. I got it yesterday. Rhea sent it to me because she said.
Oh, I was gonna say because you know what? She has a mic that looks just like that.
Yeah, she says this is the one her and Max used. She was making fun of me, saying I sound scratchy and all jarbled. And I'm like, oh, and I listened to the show. I didn't hear anything until she said that, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then
you always sound a little muffled. It was like, it just sounded like. And that was a big mic that you had before too.
Yeah, it's a brand new, very expensive mic. I guess it just wasn't the right, but it didn't have controls and things on it. You couldn't do sound control.
Yeah, the ones that don't have controls, those ones like it really needs like a separate sound mixer to make it sound good.
That's what came with earphones too. So it's like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so the earphones are actually hooked into the actual microphone.
Oh yeah, that's how the Shure mic is. And
she also sent me my headset and my mic, so she definitely gave me some technical upgrades too. Which, speak of the devil, how's it going, Rhea?
And please there she is. Here we go.
Yes, hit the like and subscribe.
So she sent you guys both that?
Yeah.
She sent me mine like last summer, so I've had mine for a while. This is new for William.
Yeah, I mean, I had
very good, very nice.
The regular old microphone right here that like I said, it was super expensive. I mean, it's not hooked up now, but it's like super expensive, and it's I thought I sounded good, but then again, like I said, it's not what it's what I think of my sound is not really as important as what it's an audience driven show. So yeah, I mean, before I even responded to I do sound, she had already had a microphone on the way. So.
You sound much better, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and I was testing it last night with Brad to see how I sounded. Because it's like it's literally a high tech, but it's nice and then it works. And like I said, I'm not used to wearing earphones when I'm on here, but the thing you can adjust it to where you can hear your voice, so
that's how this one is, or like the Blue Yeti, the Blue Yeti that I used before had the audio plug in and you can hear yourself. It makes a huge difference because when you can hear yourself, I don't know what it is. I can't. Like if I use my AirPods and I can't hear myself, it's a weird feeling. I just don't like it. This one you can, and like I almost bought the next one up from this, which is the SM7B, but that one you need a separate sound mixer. So I was like, well, wait a minute, hold on. So I'm gonna pay a bunch of money to get this, and then I gotta buy a separate sound mixer, or I can get this one where I can just use USB and the headphones plug directly into it. I was like, I'm gonna get this one.
Yeah, I could have used a sound mixer for the other one, but
that's probably what you needed for the other one. That's why it sounded so, because it was just basically on default, and there was nothing to like adjust it.
So now I have two of these. I have one at the store, and I have one here that I don't use because the Amazon Basics one I bought that we stream from the store. That one is crystal clear. That one's the best mic I have, other than the cat ears. But yeah, I got my new laptop in. Just in time for Brad not to have to suffer through a scary movie. We'll get back to we'll get back to scary movie.
I think we should just
five.
cancel
I'll
it
wrap that up.
personally because it's like we. I mean, come on.
Here we
seriously.
go.
The
But
donors.
I thought Zack Snyder was going to join you guys. Remember that?
Yeah, no, that was a joke. That would have been.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. It was funny.
Yeah,
that
that
would have
would've
been
been
absolutely
awesome, yeah.
hilarious if he'd have done that.
If he'd have done that, Brad's like, I have to watch this stupid movie.
He'd have to watch it and not be pouty about it. But so tomorrow, I think tomorrow, I think we're gonna do it at 2 normal time, 2:00. We're going to be doing The Arrival per one of our donors, Larry Korkowitz. We're gonna do The Arrival because he wanted to do a new movie, and then later on, I think around 5,
Roadhouse.
we're going to do Roadhouse. We're going to do a group watch for it. Both of these are going to be charities. And by the way, I was on Film Junkie. I literally switched the screen over from this to Film Junkie, so I haven't even gotten up yet in that time. However, though, I made the announcement of what we were going to be doing as far as after months and months and months of it being on the original goal, we have officially extended the goal to 15,000. We currently sit right now at 10,200, but there you go. So the little ball right there was the original goal. So now it doesn't even give you another one. So it's like right now we're gonna go for
15,000.
Yeah,
nice.
We have just under a month to pull in $4,800.
I love that thumbnail is just so perfect for hitting that 10 grand threshold.
Yeah.
That we did, and the fact that we did it, on the 3-year anniversary on the day of the second Rebel.
Oh yeah,
trailer.
yeah, we did. We sure did.
And also it was the day, of course, you guys tagged Meet the Spartans on me. So.
Meet the Spartans, man. You got to watch that in IMAX.
It got us to 10 grand.
Yeah,
it got us to 10
you
grand.
guys 10 grand.
You can now attach something positive to that dreadful movie. So there you go. So yeah, tomorrow's The Arrival, and then later on it'll be Roadhouse.
Which I saw that. I pretty much was all night with that on Thursday. We finished the stream. I just pulled up because I was really looking forward to it. I pulled up my Roadhouse on Amazon Prime. I freaking loved it. I thought of it. I'm a big fan of the original. And this is really cool because it takes a lot of the core elements of the original, but it really is also a very different movie. It has a very different portrayal of Dalton with Jake Gyllenhaal. He's coming kind of from a different place. He's got some different demons he's dealing with, but I think it's a very worthy follow up to the original, and the fight scenes are incredible in it. So
that's what I've heard. I heard the fight scenes were really good, and I was like, really?
All right, are they like the raid? Are they like the raid, Brad?
I
just want to get out the way.
Yeah, yes, they are definitely. I feel the fight scenes are. Yes, I feel they rise to that level of intensity. And
I'm shocked to hear this.
I think too, also, because and God forbid we actually do a watch party of the raid 2 at some point for charity.
That's not the kind of misery that gets us donations.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And
you got to go the hard road.
Yeah. but it's easier to go but I'm telling you, guys. I said this to William last night when we do the Roadhouse watch party. You guys, somebody, I forget who it was, commented last night as we were wrapping up that it's like Mad Brad versus Sad Brad or Rad Brad or something like that. And I'm going to show you guys tomorrow during Roadhouse. You're going to see Rad Brad. You see Mad Brad.
But if it's a fundraiser, it's a fundraiser.
Love Rad Brad so much, you're going to forget all about Mad Brad. I just want to see nothing but Rad Brad.
I want donation. I want donation, Brad. That's all I've read.
Well, you're going to donation. Brad is going to be way more. People are going to want to see him more with Rad Brad. So.
I will judge as we refresh the screen on our little Tiltify campaign here, and if we raise significant amount of money with Rad Brad, you know what, maybe we'll do it too. But if we don't, I mean, we might have to start digging down. I mean, there's a lot of these parody movies out there. I mean, start attaching dollars.
It doesn't mean we have to watch most or all or any of them.
We have to go in the direction of the donors, man. We're
fundraising. Man. That's your audience.
I mean, you guys,
you got to cater to them.
This garbage yet?
What's up? Yeah, I'm not getting sick of seeing our little ball.
I mean, if the audience isn't getting sick of it, you just got to keep doing it. It's all for a good cause, man. It's all for a good cause.
When they stop making it rain, Brad, then we can bring back Brad Rad is at the end of the
guys,
end of the journey.
See Brad tomorrow with Roadhouse. You will prefer
Roadhouse.
Hey, let's hit 15 grand tomorrow. If we hit 15 grand, I will embrace Brad. But if we don't, I want Sad Brad back, and I can easy to get him back.
You have to do it now, guys, or you don't care about you're reneging on your concern for the charities. There you go. I just guilt tripped you all into it.
These people have no conscience. You see who's in our audience? These are some conscience-free mofos. But anyway, hey, you can also donate to me and donate because everything I get in from you guys goes into like equipment or directly equipment. I mean, things like this, frappuccinos, caffeine that keeps the general public safe from my inner rage when I'm not caffeinated. So it's all for a good cause. Everything we do here is for a good cause. But if you want to do that, streamlabs.com/sci-fi center/tip. I will, if my little chat thing is working, I will read your chat on the air. And if it's in the case of like a musical request, like we've been doing those with the whole Legoland things, Larry loves those, so we do those for him. So yeah, everything helps when you're, like I said, you're on a shoestring budget. So, Nicotina, since you're the guest, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I think that we should start off with the biggest topic of it all. X-Men 97 and Brad, I can't wait to talk about this with you. I know William's a huge fan of the show. I mean, look, did you guys even or William, did you even watch X-Men 97?
No. I told you I wasn't going to.
I know, but still, it was so good. Dude, it was so good. I loved it. Brad, did you watch it?
Hold on, wait. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I'm gonna look at my phone. Hold on, wait.
Oh, did we get a donation?
March. No. It's March.
What do you have, a tricorder?
It's March 31st. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 2024. I stopped giving a shit about 1997 in 1998, especially when it came to the X-Men.
Dude, this look, you can feel the way you want to feel about it, and that's fine, okay? But what I'm saying is that like this show is it was so good. And the animation worked really, really well. I would argue that X-Men 97 so far, it's only been 2 episodes, but I would argue that X-Men 97 is, aside from Loki and like maybe Moon Knight, this is probably one of the best Disney Plus shows for the MCU. And it's not even the MCU. It's not even 616. It's not even really MCU, but still, that's how good it was. I really, really enjoyed it.
In all fairness, I did bring somebody on who I brought RJ on who had watched it. Fished him out of the chat. He watched it. He was very positive. I will see it though. It's just
it seems it seems pretty across the board. It seems like getting pretty close to universally pretty well praised.
Yeah. Well,
sad testament of the society, but yeah, sure.
Well, but the thing too is that like it stayed true to what the original show was.
That didn't stay true. That the original show that didn't stay true to the source material. But go ahead.
I mean, like they did to a certain extent. But yes, obviously they changed a lot of things in the cartoon because it was a cartoon back then. But this one, I'm telling you, this one actually does justice to the comics in the story and the plot twists that it adds. Like when at the end of episode 2, when it ended, I literally was like, "Holy shit! Are you kidding me?" They did something that was so fucking cool that I thought they were gonna do what most shows do, which is kind of like, some details don't make any sense, so they just kind of write it in, make sense of it. They literally did something that was like I did not expect them to do, which was so cool.
All right, well, it only took them 27 years to.
But look, I'm telling you,
it
was good. It was good. I really enjoyed it.
Right.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Okay, like I said, that's what I just said, and I will watch it because from what he explained it to me, that we're not watching the fluffified.
Yes.
Here, Johnny. Let me sit you down in front of the TV, and I don't have to worry about anything harming you on the screen.
No, this one is much more. I don't want to say it's darker, but it's more serious. It's better than the original animated series, obviously. But I mean, the original one was on Fox Kids on Saturday mornings. You know what I mean? So it can only go so far. This one's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, that was something RJ kind of said because I'm going to pull up both the episodes over the weekend, and something he said, and again, it sounds like from a lot of the reactions I've seen is that like you said, it's not so much that it's a darker show, but I've gotten the sense from the response that the makers of it were let's say we're very cognizant of the fact that the audience of the original is now much older, and they've kind of leveled the show up, different aspects for that.
Well, like right here, Niner for Life. He's on my stream right now. He has a great comment.
One of your Niner cronies in our chat. No, just kidding.
Hell yeah. Bang, bang. He says, I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be dumb, just really bad continuation, but I enjoyed the shit out of it. It made me feel like I was a teenager again back in 1992 when the original premiered. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so the intro, the fact that they basically remade the intro with newer and better animation, that was really cool in itself. I was like, wow, they did that? Holy fuck. And then not only that, but like, we got to see like X-Men, like real fucking X-Men. You know what I mean? I was just like, yes, I want more X-Men in the MCU, and I've waited so long to see it. We saw Fox do it, and it was always just like good, but it could have been better.
For the most part, for the time that those were released in, the first X-Men film is why you have all of this shit that we talk about.
Well, I would say X-Men and Spider-Man. Those are the two
I would say X-Men more so than Spider-Man because of the ensemble-ness of the group, the mega production value of it. So I was a teenager too when this show came out. Granted, I was an adult. I was a grown-ass man.
I wasn't even a teenager. I was in, what was I in? Like 1992. I was 10 years old. And I remember
I was like 5 years old at the time.
I was 18, so you know.
Yeah, he was 18.
18 with a decade of collecting the real shit, the real stuff. And like I said, you know,
like this one, like the new series so far, it's only been 2 episodes, but so far I would say it does the comics justice, and they did things that the other cartoon wouldn't have done, so it was pretty cool.
All right, Jeffrey. I saw that you said you worked on it. Now, I get. Hold on. Go back to that. Yeah. It stayed true to what the X-Men are about. I guess this is where I have I respect your opinion. The first time in the chat, I don't know which side you're coming from, but welcome. This is where where the philosophical split is for me on all of this stuff. To me, when you say what the X-Men are about, I go to a different place than this cartoon ever did. So when you say what the X-Men are really about, I'm thinking Chris Claremont. I'm thinking Jim Lee. I'm thinking Willis Portacio. I'm thinking John Byrne. I'm thinking the stuff that was literally in my hands as this stuff was being released. I'm thinking Fatal Attractions, which was released right after this was released. The things that happened in Fatal Attraction were not going to happen in the cartoon. So I guess that's where there's going to be a philosophical split between me and others, is because when you say that, I guess it's who you are talking to. So if it's based on a comic book and you fluffify that comic book, then what is it really about for me? That's where teenage me was asking. It's like, you know, can you sanitize something that was never meant for children without taking away what it really is? That's just the question
Jeffrey, real quick, are you on IMDb by any chance? Because I thought I'd go ahead and look you up on there from working on the original X-Men, see what else you've done. So yeah, if you're on IMDb, let me know because I'm trying to find you there.
Well, and then Axel's like, he's like, I'm not a huge fan of the theme song. I love the theme song.
I did too.
I
want to punch. That theme song makes me want to punch holes into people and or walls.
Dude, I love that song. And not only that, I saw Axel saying how he thought the theme song to the live action X-Men Part 1 was better, but the live action X-Men theme for the first movie, especially, it was based on the animated series theme. It's very similar. And so it's
not nearly as annoying though.
I love that one, dude.
When I saw Multiverse of Madness, when they played that, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But I'm like, okay, fine.
They played it during Miss Marvel at the very end when they said she's a mutant. It was like, I was like, yeah. I was like, I just want to see X-Men. Come on, fuck.
Please, Kevin Feige, if you're watching this, I know you came up with these X-Men movies. I know you've always done a good job of recognizing what the past is and what the future is. You're the best at it. Please
reminded
don't
me-
mimic this madness.
But also,
Please
Feige,
do not mimic this madness.
just bear in mind that William did approve all these scary movie streams, so it's like just, I mean,
Yeah,
Well, that was a
exactly.
charity. That's a charity. That's your cause. Hey, you got deep pockets. Help us avoid all this misery. But please, I am imploring you. I am begging you. Do not use anything from this cartoon, either version, if it's not consistent with the MCU that you've built since 08. And I don't see how you can do that. I think you are going to have to build an X-Men that fits within this. And, as great as this nostalgia is like a bomb. If you can do it right. If you pull the right wires, everybody walks out alive. If you pull the wrong one, everybody dies.
I thought they did. And but not only that, but the dialogue in the episodes I thought was really good. There wasn't really a lot of scenes where I was like, what the fuck? Or like, that doesn't make any sense. I thought it all flowed really well. Like, I saw a TikTok video where this guy was making fun of like one of the episodes and saying how it was hella woke and all this stuff. I didn't get
that part I will defend.
Yeah.
I will defend the cartoon on that one because, like I said, X-Men has been woke since September of 1963. If you don't realize that, you are literally every villain that the X-Men was designed to fight.
Well,
you are literally that
but
guy. You're
the
Henry
way the guy was slandering it, I was just like, this is so stupid. But no, I thought it was really cool. And then, the character morphs they brought back. And I know that was a big deal for some about how he was kind of like a non-binary form, but it was fine because he's a shapeshifter. So like really,
so is
like
Mystique. Mystique was banging people as guys, impregnating people as a man. So
So it's funny too because like Zack Snyder had said this a while back, and it was true because I remember thinking about this back in the day. But it was like it's like Marvel. I always felt like Marvel was always like, it was always darker than DC. Especially with the X-Men, they always had a much darker tone. They were dealing with more controversial topics that that were influenced from racism and all that, inequality.
They were created to do so. They were created.
But that's what I'm saying. The fact that they tackled those topics was always so fascinating to me. And as it turns out, the MCU was always like, brighter, more hopeful, nicer. And then the DCEU ended up becoming super dark, which, I thought was really cool too, but still.
Here's the thing though. Had Marvel not been in bankruptcy, you would have started out dark. You would have started out dark because they would have had those characters at their disposal. But and then I'll see a Droga super chat there that didn't come from our side, but that's fine.
By the way, I just found you on I've just found Jeff's IMDb. So let me scroll down to his.
Oh wow!
There he is right there. Animation lip sync on X-Men Animated Series. Yeah. It's like we were. I'm surprised.
Oh, by the way, Jeff, not knocking your work, not knocking you personally in your work. It's just I have a philosophical problem with these animated shows in the 90s and their influences. Fun. I hope this is not true. I hope you're just fucking with me. The success this series is going to have will influence what they do in the next decade. They shouldn't. It should not. It's in an era that is not going to be, as far as I know. And two, no. All right. That is my problem. Fun. I love you, but you just illustrated why. And the same thing with Batman. All right. Listen, no. The 90s was a special animal where you could do this stuff, but you cannot show grown people. You cannot homogenize these things, and the MCU, especially after what Scarlet Witch did and looked like the last time you saw her, you ain't giving me no cartoon X-Men after that. You are not giving me cartoon X-Men after Multiverse of Madness when you had people's heads exploding and people getting ripped apart and shards of glass, and her, doing what she did. You're gonna go give me the Huggies version of that after all that? No, you're gonna have to do something that is consistent with the universe that you build. I can't see them. I think this is a cool thing that they're doing, separate from everything else. You get your nostalgia out of the way, it's done and over with. But I can't see this influencing because you would have to literally put something in your universe that's not consistent, and he's been really good at that. Drogo, what is whatever $7.99 is in Australia.
Oh yeah, that theme, I love that. I love that theme song of Spider-Man because I was pretty I followed that pretty religiously as a kid, and that's
you blinked, you missed it. If you blinked, it was gone.
Yeah, I mean, look, they added Spider-Man to that Saturday morning Fox Kids lineup after, I forgot how much longer after, but like it was after the X-Men had already been out. And I remember thinking, like, if you missed an episode, now let me tell everybody right now, back in the day, if you missed an episode, you were fucked.
That was it.
That was
No
it.
DVR,
that was
baby.
your one shot. There was
No
no DVR. There was
No
no streaming. There was no, I'll go online and watch the episode. No, that shit didn't exist.
And you didn't know when it was repeats were coming, so your ass better have a TV guide,
Yeah, because like, so
Damn
if
kids.
you all of a sudden tuned in on Saturday and it was a rerun, you were like, oh shit. You're like, I've already seen
Hopefully
this.
that's the one you missed. But
Yeah.
mid-2000s Marvel comics were pretty dark. Listen, you know what else is dark? All of X-Men. That's
All
what
of
I
X-Men
mean.
is dark.
They were actually Marvel's actually comics wise was actually darker than the DC was.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
I thought it was.
That is a wide perception. The most popular and most selling comics of Marvel were. All the X titles were, and whatever Frank Miller was on was.
Yeah,
And
it's
usually that was
true.
Daredevil. Everything else, they were always terrified. Fantastic Four, for the most part, it had issues, but Iron Man would have a drinking issue, anything like that. But for as far as that level, they didn't give anybody else license to be that way, but Chris Claremont. Until like the mid to late 90s when they let everybody do it because they were getting desperate and they needed better selling books. But like I said, with DC, it was part of what they did. With Marvel, it was what it was allowed to by a handful of writers, which is weird because when you think of that, you think that Marvel is much darker. No, it was the top selling comics were, but the rest of it was and Spider-Man had some issues. When the Hobgoblin came around, it was different type of movie. For the most part, it was basic storytelling, which was fine. It didn't all have to be dark, but Chris Claremont, Neil Gaiman, Frank Miller, people like that showed you you could take your audience to that spot and not lose them. So yeah, all of Marvel X-Men, at least X-Men was dark from pretty much the beginning because if you interpreted it for what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby meant it to be, it was a civil rights struggle from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were
Absolutely.
if you were reading the comics and you were watching your TV, especially post 1964, 1965, you were seeing what Stan Lee couldn't display in the comics was being played out on your TV, and most people were able to make the parallel, make the connection. All right, so yeah, that I'll eventually watch the cartoon. From what I hear, there's been an adjustment made that won't make me as nauseous as the original concept of the cartoon. Like I said, the concept of these cartoons in the 90s was just like as a young man, as a just starting comic who held these properties near and dear to them, it just was sacrilege. I mean, seeing Apocalypse softened up like that was like, I mean, I can taste the vomit in my mouth now when I first saw him on that show.
Well, but that's the difference. That was made for kids. It was on Fox
Exactly.
Kids. I mean, they had to cater to that. But I think now, depending on how long this show goes, you're going to see a much more serious, much more mature version of these characters. And already Magneto's character has been extremely badass. And he's
consistent with that era in the comics. They even gave you that costume, like I was explaining the other night.
With
There's
the
a
M.
reason that he's not wearing, when he goes through that era in the 80s where he becomes the headmaster, he's not wearing the bolted the helmet with the horns on it because they wanted you to perceive things from his point of view. And he actually has a point of view that is legitimate, that you really need to, when he lays it out there, and actually when he forms the acolytes and everything else, when people start leaving Professor X for him because they don't see Professor X's ways working, that was something that was always embedded. That was always a conflict. So I'm glad to see that they're visiting that. But like I said, they're about 27 years too late, and it's not 1997.
Well, but at the same time, like he addresses that in the show too about why he's not wearing the helmet and why he's changed his look. So, and and he talks about that, and I thought it was really good. I just think when you get a chance, check it out. I thought episode 2 was better than episode 1. Episode 1 is a lot of fun. Episode 1 is more like, let's team up and kick some ass. And then episode 2 was much more story driven, with a huge plot twist at the end, which I thought was amazing. But overall, though, I enjoyed it. I thought it did the show justice. I thought it did the characters justice, and it made the characters better as well. I thought Cyclops was absolutely better way better in this version of the X-Men, even though it's the same character, but like his fighting style, the things that he would do, it was just really cool to see. It made you wonder, like, man, if we got it in live action, fuck, it's gonna be badass.
Anyway, Jeffrey Peterson, it was groundbreaking at the time, and it did not seem like it was for kids. It was punk rock. The average cartoon fan didn't know who the X-Men were. Okay, I got a slight problem with that, respectfully. I don't know if it all depends on where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think
it instantly, I knew as an 18-year-old, I knew this was for kids. I had grown up watching kids cartoons.
Absolutely.
So that the average cartoon fan didn't know who the X-Men were. That's fine, but here's the thing, and I always say this: not everything needs to be made for kids. Make stuff for kids. Create stuff for kids. But if you have to change, and to me, that X-Men was not recognizable to the X-Men I was literally collecting at the time and had been collecting for 10 years. At that time this thing was released. I mean, X-Men fans 82 all the way up. So give me this stuff in 1992. To me, as somebody who could have recited X-Men to you, I'm like, what is this? So it's like I say, would you want to make a G-rated Friday the 13th? No, because Jason hacking people's heads off isn't for kids. All right. Yeah. I have as much use for these type of cartoons as I have for G-rated porn. It shouldn't exist. You can create stuff for kids. X-Men was not for kids. All right. The stuff that the X-Men did leading up to that point, and in some cases beyond that, was not for kids. And if you're going to adapt something, and if you have to change so much to adapt it, and you had to, admittedly they had to, then just make something else. Make something new that has always been for kids. That's just my opinion, but I can respect everyone else's.
I think for its time and for it being a kid show, I thought it was more serious than most of the kid shows were at that time. So I get what he's talking about, because I remember as a kid, I mean, like I said, I was like 10, 11 years old. I remember thinking that the show felt much more serious and darker than other shows. Granted, it's coming from me as a 10 or 11-year-old. Compared to the other kids shows that were out there at the time, this was much more serious. I mean, you're talking about, people, more action, dealing with, obviously mutants and non-mutants and that whole struggle. And so it was definitely different than anything that the kids had seen. But at the same time, as a kid, we were collecting X-Men comics, we were reading X-Men comics. So seeing it on TV was really, really cool. Because, I mean, we're like, yeah, this is amazing.
I have a different word for it, and it's not cool. But that's fine, like I said.
But that's what I'm saying. Perception-wise, as a kid, I thought it was really, really good. Now, if I was 18 years old, I don't know if I would feel the same way, because I'm expecting something different, something, a whole different feel to it. But I think they went as dark as they possibly could, being on Fox Kids on Saturday morning. If this was a show that was on MTV or on Liquid Television, then you're talking about something different. You know what I mean? Yeah. It depends on what channel that this show was being presented on.
To me, that's where you have the meeting of, should we do this or not? And if we're putting it on a channel for kids, then just don't do it. Because were you ever going to get the Mutant Massacre on that cartoon in 1992? No. So you're telling me you can't do things that are consistent with X-Men, that are recognizable as X-Men, that make the X-Men what they are, because you have to, put it in front of an audience that really, like I said, there's millions of other ways you could reach that audience, And like I said, if it were just a cartoon itself existing, it's easy enough for me just not to watch it. Yeah. But it's what I always say about Batman. It's not the fact that it's out, that it was made. It's the fact that we can't separate our kid's self from our grown-up self. I don't. The cartoons that I watched when I was a kid, I don't wear diapers as a grown-ass man anymore because I grew up, and I'm not going to need that influencing my grown-ass. It's the Christopher Reeve that was okay for me as 6-year-old William is not suitable for a grown-ass man William anymore. I need something different, because guess what? I grew up.
Right. But I mean, this show, 97, just like how you're saying, you've matured past that Chris Reeves Superman. This one made changes to appeal to that same audience, but now at an older age.
but it still stems from an audience that they softened it for. So you're never going to really retro
Right.
take away that.
But I
It's
mean,
like, great,
but like
you
I
know.
said, if let's say this show never came out on Fox Kids, and let's say it came out on like MTV on or Liquid Television, during that show, you would have a much darker state. I mean, look at
You would have X-Men. You would have the X-Men.
Yeah,
It would have been recognized.
look at animated movies like Heavy Metal. You know what I mean? Like that. Like you weren't going to get that on Fox Kids, obviously.
Okay. But okay, and if you're doing heavy metal anywhere, and you have to neuter it in any way, guess what? Don't
sucks.
do it.
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
That's your answer. That's the answer to the question.
Well, and then of course you got Rebel Moon, who is heavily influenced from heavy metal, and then you talk about if you were to neuter it, it wouldn't be the same. So now obviously that begs the question: how different is Zach's rated R version? That's an hour longer compared to what we saw in PG-13. I think it's going to be an entirely different movie.
He says like a different
the thing
world.
about that is that I know that coming in, and this movie is not going to have an undue influence on the entire genre.
I would say this, William. I would say watch the first 2 episodes and just see what you think. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I thought they did a really good job with it. And then what's crazy though is that I'm sitting here talking about how much I like the show, but the guy who created the show got fired. So I'm like, great. One of the shows I love that they did in Marvel, they fired the creator. I was like, oh shit, it's crazy.
All right, okay. Now this, and we'll move on after this. Attack.
Yeah.
But it got kids probably never picked up a comic book or watched any of these characters, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man, regardless. No, it didn't. And here's why: because it gave you expectations of something going forward that you either shed as you grew up, or you tried to carry into adulthood. And then what ends up happening is now when we finally get these movies to come home to their core things, now we start getting the people, well, it doesn't kill, he's too dark, he's too brooded, oh, what's going on? That's not because you associate that kid stuff with what your perception of the character is, even though by admission, they altered those characters to make them suitable for you. So the influence should be what they are. Batman is what he is. Batman does what he does. Wolverine is what he is. He disembowels people on a page-by-page basis. He kills every time he puts those claws out. Storm guts people with her knife that she carries after her power. The Scout Hunter shoots mutants at point blank and their heads are disintegrating on the page. That is what the X-Men are. Not by me. I didn't do it. Chris Claremont said it. John Byrne said it. Jim Lee said it. So I'm going by, if you're going to call it X-Men, then it's the X-Men. Otherwise, if you have to carve away at that, even if that's the first thing, listen, I couldn't be there for you to hand you a comic. Sorry. But when it comes to that, it's not the fact that was there. It's the influence that it has. It's like I said, I don't hate Crisis the story. I hate the influence and the habits that it built into the industry. So if you pick this up for the very first time, and as you grew up and you shedded the diapers and you put on the big boy pants and you got the job and you got the hair on your chest and everything else, and you left the kid shit behind and that influence behind, all more power to you. But if you brought that anvil into modern filmmaking, and when these characters become their core characters, when Batman beats the shit out of people, which Batman has done for decades, when Wolverine rips out your intestines with one hand and causes you to be bionically repaired. When Storm is street fighting in the gutter with Callisto, when you get to that and you're not trying to influence and lighten that, then I'm okay. But when you come into the game, well, this is the preeminent so-and-so, and I wish they would adapt that. No. All right. I don't need to see Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck adapted to my slasher movies and my violent movies. Why? Because I grew up.
Yeah, but that's like me saying, I've seen Spidey and Friends, the kid show that's out right now. That's not my Spider-Man. I mean, that's a newer version of Spider-Man.
You can make that. That's the thing. If you can do that, I'm on board with you. But it's too many people can't. They want these things that they grew up to influence the grown-up world. And I'm like, why? Why? It literally says for kids. It says for kids. Why do you want to have something that says for kids influencing my adult life? Come on.
Even when you get X-Men in live action, I don't know how close you're going to get to
The first
what you got
scene
in the
was
comics.
a Holocaust. The first scene of X-Men was a prison camp. They went
Right.
They went home.
No. But what I'm saying is when the MCU does X-Men, I don't know how much they're going to hone in on that. I loved on the first X-Men movie that it was, it was a concentration camp and he's, the raw emotion of him being separated from his family, caused his mutant ability, to be expressed. I thought that was great.
You guys are no, Dork Knight. You should not hate the Super Friends. But Dork Knight, if you come in and we're doing a session of a creative session, and you try to say, hey, I think we should make modern day Justice League like Marvin and Super Jan and Gleek the fucking monkey and all that, now we have a problem. I love the Superman Super Friends as a kid. I got a kick out of that fool with the tablecloth for a cape and the bell bottoms. And the Indian that would
but
fly
that shit's
around.
really corny. I mean, that's not really indicative of how Superman and Batman comics were. I mean, they were much more violent than that, much more serious.
Exactly. But see, I watched that as a kid, and that might have been some of my first thing. But what happened? When I come with my expectation for,
but you still like the show.
This.
You still like it though.
It did not influence the now. It did not.
Yeah, but
when I grew up,
okay.
Up, yeah, that's my thing. The influence, not necessarily the actual quality of the product. Because to be honest with you, I have no problem with the quality of the influence. The influence is the key thing for me. The expectations going forward that kind of taints the audience because this is what their expectation. This thing for kids is their expectation for adults, and I'm like, no. That's my philosophical spin.
Brad, what do you think?
And I pray that this is not true. Because even now, when Feige, if you're watching, come on, man, come on, let's all be grown men and women now. We're grown.
Well,
men
I mean,
with this. Come on.
To be honest, if 97 is supposed to be what Feige wants, I mean, I'd be cool with that. I thought it was great, so I was like all for it. But I mean, like I said, I would watch it first before you start ripping into it.
I listen. I will watch it, but I'm not going to be any less happier about. Like I said, I still have this thing for kids influencing the adults world. Like I said, I don't wear diapers anymore. I don't eat baby food anymore. Why? Because I don't need to. I grew up. I have things for adults now. And I don't take the little kid stuff that influenced me when I was a kid and try to shoehorn it into the adult world. And so I have, as a grown-ass man, I still am dealing with sanitized versions of these characters that are brutally violent and that come from a brutally violent atmosphere, every single one of them. So, yeah. You guys,
I thought Brad was going to say something.
All you guys.
No.
You guys
no.
call me all you guys snobs.
But here's the thing, though, is like, look, not only that, but I mean, look, you're a huge fan of wrestling. I mean, you have the belts behind you, and that is in itself, I used to watch WWE. I was an avid fan for a long time, and even now, it's like I can't even watch it now because it's. I mean, for one, again. With wrestling, once you fall off the train and you fall behind, it's hard for me. It was hard to get back on and catch up to what was happening. But I mean, the storylines that are put out there by wrestling, I mean, they're fairly corny, fairly one dimensional. But we love that because it's so easy to follow and so one dimensional and so just pure testosterone.
I don't take Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling and what the 80s wrestling gave me, and when I go to these shows and I watch these shows, I have no expectations of that stuff that was okay in the 1980s and the 1990s is going to fit in this modern world. We've changed as a society, so it's just no. But like I said, now if I came in and told Tony Khan and Triple H, hey, I can't deal with this modern day, wrestling that you're doing. Why don't you make things more like things were back in me in 1988? And if I'm Tony Khan and Triple H, I'm like, because you grew up, we grew up. Why don't you go back to wearing a Snuggie or sleeping in a crib? Why? Because we're beyond that now. We're in a different place now, influenced by big boy, big girl things.
I mean, look, like I haven't watched it in quite a while. Mainly my wife got me out of it because she couldn't stand it. So I had to watch it, behind the scenes because she was like, I can't watch this shit.
Divorce. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, and but no, I mean, like even Night for Life said, I grew out of wrestling in the late '90s. You know, but when I was watching it, you know, Triple H was probably one of the best performers that were out there. The Rock was really good. Kurt Angle was amazing. Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously, and there's a lot of wrestlers that I'm a huge fan of, and you know, but still, it's like, you know, as corny as that is, or how stupid they can be, I still love it. You know what I mean? I was totally entrenched in it. And look, I'm not saying that. So okay. Here's my thing: is that you said no, don't hate Super Friends, just don't let it influence how you perceive the characters, right?
No, how the characters are the creative direction of the characters, because that's what's happened. A lot of these perceptions lead to influencing on some of these later things, and the perceptions of that the characters don't do this, they don't do that. I'm like, no, these characters have always done that. Your perception comes from a place that wasn't consistent with the source material. You know,
but it seems like when you go back to Justice League of 2017, it feels like they were trying to bring that feel back to it, that Super Friends kind of feel, that kind of, you know, corny kind of. I'm talking about the theatrical,
and that's why it failed.
And so that is a clear indication of what William is talking about. That you shouldn't take, you know, the version of the characters that you grew up with and say, you know, it has to be this way and only this way. You know, it shouldn't, you know, it shouldn't predict how the characters need to and should only act. You know what I'm saying?
Here's what happens. Because now when these characters have behaved a certain way, you know, and then when it comes time to make the characters closer to what those characters are consistently about, we have a split audience now that says this character doesn't do this character doesn't do that. I wish they would do it more like the cartoons. I've heard that so many times, and like I said, I want to jam Q-tips in both of my eardrums when I hear that, because now you're having these things that are not just out there; they're out there and they're carrying weight. And that's why you have a lot of these comic book audiences, especially with DC. That's why you have a lot of this stuff split, because you have a generation that came up with something that wasn't what it was, and then another generation that has no, like I said, the Joker in that cartoon is never going to do anything like what the Joker was. Joker's a mass murderer. He's a killer. You think you're going to see in that era, were you ever going to see something like the Killing Joke in any cartoon? Were you ever going to see a death in a family in any of those cartoons? No. But that was Batman. So you're basically telling me you're not going to see what Batman is in something that's called Batman. You weren't going to see. Were you going to see Wolverine rip Donald Pierce to shreds? You know, and have him bleeding and holding himself together with his hands as he escapes. Were you going to have that? No, that's what they were. Were you going to have?
But even with the MCU, when they do it, you're never going to get that. I don't think you're ever going to get that violent.
You wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't expect it to see Scarlet Witch walking around with blood all over her face, making people explode either. We saw that. So I think you got a better chance of that kind of consistency because it's what the MCU is. All I'm saying is build something within the MCU that you've created. You don't need no more kid stuff. We're good.
But that was Sam Raimi. I mean, he gave Sam Raimi way more freedom to do what he wanted to do in his film, and it showed. I remember watching that movie, Multiverse of Madness, and thinking, yeah, this feels more like a Sam Raimi movie, and I like that.
If there's X-Men, there's going to be violence.
There has to be violence.
Laughing violence.
Well, and that's the thing.
We're going to have a problem. Because we got the cartoon generation that's like, oh, my God, they're going to go into shock. Especially the ones that have never picked up.
See, I don't think so, because, look, when the first X-Men came out, I felt that film was playing it safe. They all had the same costume, just like a black leather suit. Wolverine never really uses claws on anybody except for just like a jump at Sabretooth and all that. But when you got to X2 and Wolverine is running around killing all those soldiers that are attacking the mansion, that was badass. That was more of what I wanted to see.
Because once the original X-Men was successful, they could start doing stuff. Now that you've bridged the gap between what the general public knows and what us geeks know. Now we've bridged that gap a lot to where you can have Wolverine in his original costume. Whereas before the average, this is 22 years ago, where the average fan just wasn't on that recognition base.
They weren't ready for that. If you would have put him in that yellow suit or even the brown suit, everyone would have been like, what the fuck? Like, it just wouldn't have looked right. Now they expect it. But I mean, when you look at movies like, what was it? Logan. I mean, after he takes all the medicine and he goes into that berserker rage, that was a badass scene. I loved it.
You're not going back from that. You're not going to give me.
I mean, he's slashing through guys' faces and heads and body. I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, you know what I mean?
And the kid me, that's a Wolverine I grew up with as a kid. When I
wanted more of it. I was like, dude, this is badass. I mean, even in the Wolverine, he had to fight all those ninjas and all that, and that whole scene too was really, really. I thought that was well done. I thought it was really cool. I actually liked that movie, the Wolverine, except for towards the end when they drained his adamantium, which was like,
oh yeah, that was. Yeah.
It was unnecessary because then in the next film he had it back again, which I guess you can only assume that Magneto did that, but they never really showed it. So it was kind of like, why did what? What?
Yeah, they tried to capture the essence of one of the more famous the Fatal Attraction storyline, but even then, he's only without his adamantium for it's temporary. He ends up getting it back.
He gets it back. I mean, even in the comics, when that happened, I remember like me and my friends we'd always talk about like it's only a matter of time before he gets it back. There's no way, because that started the whole Logan series where he was by himself and he had his wood claws and they would break every so often. Yeah. Oh, bone. I don't know why I said wood. Bone claws. And then like he get into fights and then like one would break off. You were just like, oh my God. But we all knew like it's only a matter of time. Like there's no way you can bury a character like Wolverine.
I get them now. And this is where, I make my case of them. I don't try to deter. If you want the X-Men, it's right there. But here's the thing, though. It's sitting right next to the legit X-Men. It's sitting next to the actual stuff. Here's a trade paperback. If all I ask is that, okay, if you love that stuff, great. But when you come in, we put the weight of that perception to change what the characters are going forward. That's where I got an issue with it. So. Yeah, the X-Men stuff, when it comes to people coming in buying comics, we do have a lot of more people because of that. But the core audience of X-Men is going to always go back to the core stuff. It's just that the comic book collector is not necessarily, not what they're looking for. But once again, here's the thing, though. You don't necessarily need to look to us. But look to grown-ups, look to adults.
But I think what it did establish X-Men 97 was that you had a wide audience that was that liked it. It had a positive reception, and on top of that, you had a lot of people that didn't need to have an origin story for all these characters. They just already knew who the characters were, and so to me, that's a test to see
Did you? Did you know who Wolverine was? Did you, from watching the cartoon, did you really know who Wolverine was?
But that's not. I mean, watching the cartoon is not my only resource of Wolverine. You know what I mean? Like
you're not the era of my rat though. I mean, because did these people who watched this and most likely never picked up a comic, did they really know what Apocalypse was? The genocidal mass murderer.
Well, of course. If you're basing it off of that, then no. But what I'm saying is that like there wasn't a huge need to be like, okay, when we start this show, we have to reintroduce all the characters and kind of give all of them some origin story. No, they didn't do that, and it was fine. I appreciate the fact that they didn't try to go back and try to reestablish every single character, because I mean that's going to take too long. And half the time when you get an ensemble movie, they spend a lot of time trying to tell everyone's a little bit of everyone's origin, and I like that this one just jumped right into it. And I was like, good.
Oh, you're talking about the movie. Okay, yeah. I think the X-Men movie, the original X-Men movie, was groundbreaking. Like I said,
it doesn't definitely
get as much credit as it deserves for being why we're in this comic book atmosphere, because it proved to every studio that you could do something on this scale. And here's where we can improve on it. Here's what we can do. Is it the greatest comic movie of all time? No, but I think it's up there in the top 2 or 3 with as far as importance, because if that movie doesn't come out, studios are still handling things the way they were handling them in the 90s, and that was not good. All right, so we've established that. Brad, you still there? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just kind of letting you guys just have the floor there.
Yeah, sorry about that, Brad.
All right. What else did you want to talk about, Nicotina?
I don't know. I mean, Ghostbusters came out. I haven't seen that yet. I want to
haven't
see
either.
it. I'm not over the moon. Like I have to go see this now. I like after watching the trailer, I kind of felt like okay, so this one might be a little more silly, a little more like I it's funny because when you look around and you see all these projects that are being greenlit and the projects that we're getting, it feels like I mean not only is the MCU in like this multiverse saga, but it feels like all of Hollywood is in like this nostalgia saga where like everyone's going for nostalgia now. Like you got another Ghostbusters movie. They just announced that they're making a part 2 to what was it Happy Gilmore? And I was like,
Yeah, I
what the
saw that
fuck?
today.
Without Carl Weathers and Bob Barker. I mean, I know Bob Barker couldn't live forever, but I thought Carl Weathers, and I actually saw Happy Gilmore with my dad.
I mean, that's a great movie. I love that movie, but like, it's just getting to the point now where it's like Hollywood is just rehashing all these old movies. I mean, even Mean Girls got redone. And granted, Tina Fey was involved, which is great, but still, that got rehashed. And again, I
want
mentioned
new
this
ideas.
before. Yeah, I want new ideas. And so here's the thing: when you go back to like let's say the early '90s or just the '90s in general, right? You had projects that came out that were so unique for their time. Like I'm sorry, but like The Fifth Element. That was such a unique story that you hadn't seen anything like that. And I don't know about you guys, but I like that movie. I think it's really cool. But at the time, you didn't see anything like that at all. And I think those are the kind of original stories that we want to see more of. And I think that's something that Zack Snyder was trying to accomplish when it came to Rebel Moon. He was trying to give us, even in Army of the Dead, he was trying to give us something unique, something different, something fresh. And that's what I really liked. And even Dune, I thought was such like a breath of fresh air in terms of having this serious tone, sci-fi, grand kind of movie. It was great. And those are the movies that we need to see more of. I mean, even like the movies that kind of fall between the cracks that are still good, like Event Horizon. I think is a cool movie that you don't see those kind of films anymore. You just don't. It's either a big tentpole or or it's nothing. And I want to see those original kind of groundbreaking stories that you just don't see very often. To me, that is cinema.
I agree with you. There's a huge problem. That's a huge problem that unfortunately is what they figured out. They don't make money.
It's all about money. It's all about money. So it's like, how do you market that? And it's like you pointed out before, William, they didn't greenlit Dune 2 because they probably figured or they were wondering, is this going to make a lot of money?
Yeah, and as of right now, Dune 2 is the biggest movie of the year.
Dune 2 is badass. I thought that was a great movie. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, they were afraid, and like I said, if it wasn't for HBO Max and them being able to get not just the box office data, the HBO Max data, I don't think you get a Dune 2, and that's why when people say, "Well, they should have released it in theaters," and I'm like, they did release it in theaters, and everybody who wanted to see Dune saw it in theaters. I saw it.
But you're talking about the theaters that had just reopened out of COVID. And at that point, nobody was really going to the theater. But I think that, if that came out in an era where COVID didn't exist, I don't know if it would have bombed. I don't think so.
It would have bombed. And here's a reason why it would. And I love the movie and I love the director. Mm-hmm. But it would have bombed because it's a complex IP. It's well known, but not in a broad sense that makes money. And it's not a type of movie that if you're not already into it or into that director that you're going to take a risk on. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean you're adverse to it? No, not at all. But you're not gonna take the wife and the kids or the date and spend that $50 to $125 on going to the movie with tickets, gas, and snacks and everything else on a movie that obscure and everything else. Now the diehards like us, you're never going to see me watch this on a screen smaller than the biggest one I could see it on. But you need everyone else on board to watch it. And what HBO Max having on HBO Max it was low risk. All they had to do is aim their remote at it, and if they didn't like it, the risk was over. All you just paid for HBO Max, you just flip on to something else on HBO Max when you want to. So had it been released under normal circumstances, Dune's $400 some odd million with its budget is not a success story on its own. Dune's watchability on HBO Max is what got Dune 2.
I
So
mean,
that budget is massive for that first one.
Yeah, but still, I think that I don't think it'd be a failure in the box office. You know, if it wasn't during COVID, I think that I think it would have done really well. I mean, look at the well. I can't compare it to the Batman because Batman prints money
Batman is 400 million right out of the gate, and then
right out of the gate.
And anything. Dune is not. Dune, and I say this because I love that director, and his movies prior to now don't make money. Blade Runner don't make money. Arrival they made some money, but not like blockbuster money. And all those, I mean, some of those were super obscure things, and Dune was no less obscure. It would have bombed.
Well, that's the thing too. Like Arrival, Arrival's a really good movie. I really really enjoyed that movie, but even the storytelling in that, I was watching it. I remember thinking, I was like, I could see how a lot of fans, moviegoers, would get to the end of this and be like, "What the fuck? Like, I don't get it," you know, like, or like, I sat through this whole movie for this, you know? It was kind of like, dude,
hold on. Bombed with a capital B, with a capital O, with a capital M, with a capital B, and another capital E, and a G.
I don't think it would have bombed, dude. I don't.
Okay,
I don't.
You guys are listen. There's math, and then there's wishful thinking.
I'm just saying, like, plus you would have had the huge marketing campaign.
I was part of the marketing campaign.
I know, but like, there's no way they would have went bigger than that if it was only in theaters. I mean, it would have been. They were not. The marketing campaign that we went on for, that was the marketing campaign that had been developed and signed off on 9 months earlier. They were not going any bigger prior to that. But at the same time, you're talking about in an era in which we're coming out of COVID. So, you know, yes, it put the movie in front of more people on HBO Max.
But COVID, people want to use COVID. COVID is a reason for a lot of movies. Dune's not one of them, and I love Dune. You guys don't come at me like I don't like Dune.
No one's saying that. Yeah. But what about the Suicide Squad? Do you think that bombed, or do you think that's because of COVID?
No, I think that bombed, because here's the thing about Suicide Squad was released in August of 2021. We're vaccinated in. We're coming back to the theaters, even though you had Omicron, wasn't that big. Now it bombed because of name value. Same reason why Dune would have bombed with the general public. It bombed on name value. Because when you took Godzilla vs. Kong, which was released before any of those movies, we were still heavily into COVID, and we didn't have a vaccine. We didn't even have a vaccine on the horizon at that time. In March of 2021, that movie made the kind of money that they were looking for, because it had name brand value. Now, out of all those movies, yeah, exactly. All these movies, Dune Part 1 was fucking excellent. So just because you like a movie. You just can't be cartoonishly unreal about its prospects for making money. I wish all of Denis Villeneuve's movies made money, but they don't.
And that's the reason I've the joke I always tell when you make the comparison.
All right, guys.
Godzilla versus Kong's like their success is because that was the first like big box office success of the pandemic era, and I always say it's like, yeah, after that year, like, what could be more cathartic than watching the lizard and the chimp beating the shit out of each other? So.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, give me Godzilla versus Kong, because I just want to see some fucking action. I just want to go and turn my brain off, and that's what that was.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we're about to get that in a week. Again.
There was, you know what? Yeah, I think I said it before. Like, they're slowly turning Godzilla and Kong into fucking Transformers. You know what I mean? Where it's just going to be like a bunch of fart jokes and then action sequences. But it's like, come on, man. Like, see, and this is what I hate, because like I like Kong Skull Island. I liked Godzilla by Gareth Edwards. Oh no, was it Gareth Edwards or was it Matt Reeves? No, Gareth Edwards. I like that movie. And but when we start getting stupid, and we're giving Kong like a fucking robotic
the
arm sleeve, it was like, what are we doing here? Come on. And I know people were like, well, if you watch the Japanese versions, that was totally crazy. I don't care.
Well, we're in America.
Yeah, exactly. Right, I don't give a shit.
On a $165 million budget, which even by 2021 is a lot, and that's not including the 156 that they spent on advertising, because I still have a lot of the stuff at the store. It made $434 million. Now, it was projected prior to that to make much less. Now, a lot of those people who got to see it you had return viewers. Remember, you had return viewers who, once they saw it on HBO Max, you have 25 or so percent that went to the theaters to see it after they saw it on HBO Max. So if you put this movie out there without HBO Max, I guess it considers what you guys consider a bomb. That's not for what they spent on. It's not a lot of money. They actually spent a 190 on this one, but it's at 500 million. They said this one needed 500 million to break even. It's not going to matter because this one's going to get re-released in Oscar time, so you're fine there. So it's going to wrap up its box office. It'll be fine. But if they were even worried. Warner Brothers was worried about it might be bombing because of that's why you didn't get Dune Part 1 and 2 filmed at the same time.
Yeah.
They were shaking about this movie. So for you guys to come in retrospect and be like, oh, it wouldn't have bombed. You got to understand the dynamic of what Dune was in 2021 and where Denis Villeneuve's movies were as far as being able to generate that type of money. Now he made other movies and he made profit margin, but you're talking about not on a budget like that, and most heartbreakingly, Blade Runner 2049. Nothing, so it was a concept. I love Dune. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but at the same time, you have to be realistic about without COVID, without HBO Max, would have done what it was, and would we have had number 2 without it? I think it would have bombed. I hate saying that, by the way. It's my favorite. He's becoming my favorite director. But you got to be real and look at the math there.
I mean, look, I see what you're saying, but I just don't think that Dune would have bombed that hard. Well, I'm not saying.
How much you think? Take COVID away. Take COVID away. And take
at the very minimum, I think this movie could have made anywhere from $400 to $500 million. I mean, at the very minimum.
I mean, we don't ever have to find out because of the circumstances.
Right.
I'm thinking that I'm thinking 330.
330?
330 max.
And that could have been the case.
That's a bomb.
It's a bomb, but I mean, look, at least he got to make part 2.
I'm so happy he did. Like I said, I don't twist this up in the chat. I know.
Well, and remember too, remember how everyone was waiting for the announcement for them to greenlight during Dune 2? We were like, are they going to announce this or what?
When we were talking to our intermediates about it, they hadn't considered it. They hadn't considered on a box office level. They weren't on board with a Dune 2. So when the people who are making your movies, Legendary are making your movies, and they aren't on board with a Dune 2 based on its box office that it got then, that should tell you something right there. And then you're talking about having to wait for the analytics to come from HBO Max, which is what pushed it over the edge. Which is I'm glad it happened. But let's be real about what Dune was. It was like I said, it was a complex IP. It was a risky IP to take on. It was a very expensive IP to take on. The marketing campaign, it was bonkers. And it was bonkers expensive because that marketing campaign was before it had been decided, a lot. We weren't thinking about COVID when we were making these movies. So, but even without COVID, like I said, if you're saying four something.
Brad,
how much do you think? How much do you think without COVID and without HBO Max? How much do you think, Brad? Dune Part 1 mix.
The first one, I think that's about how under normal circumstances that's about what it would have done.
Yeah, and 400 to 500.
Yeah,
I wish it would have done 500. I wish it had the potential to be with Dune 2.
The second one just did 500.
Yeah, because of the groundbreaking. The second one doesn't even get made without under the normal circumstances.
Look at Black Adam. That did what, $320 million, something like that. And then you got the Flash. How much did that do? $200 and something million?
Yeah, we're talking. Like I said, now we're talking later on. But I'm talking out in 2021 when it was released, and there's a lot more attached to that other bullshit. Oh my god! But we're talking 2021 when Dune is released without Dune 2, without it's just
for me too. I think that Dune 1, I already knew what was going to happen. So I know the story, so I was kind of like, I love seeing all these new characters, but like I know it's all going to go to shit in about an hour and a half, So I was more excited for Dune 2 because I wanted to see how they were going to handle, what do you call it? The native people who lived on that planet.
The Fremen.
How the Fremen were going to be attacking. What do they call it? The Harkonnens.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
Arqueans.
and so that whole aspect was really cool. Although they were trying to attack that one that spice mining machine, and they had that one ship that was like hovering above, like shooting at them, and I was like, you know, in my head, I was like, if they would have had two of those, they would have won that little skirmish. They only had the one. Once they shot it down, it was like, well, we won. Like fuck, no one's coming. But anyway, no, I thought it was good though. Dune 2 was a lot of fun.
I thought Dune 2 was one of the best movies in a long time. It's far surpassed Man of Steel, Profit, Man of Steel. Man, that doesn't matter to the guys like Zaslav's in there. I don't give two shits about your profit margin. You know what I care about? Because profit margin is not shit without what? Volume. If you're not making the money in the volume, great. It's like me selling this Dune profit. This thing I made $20 profit, but I need 1,000 of these to make it to
plus,
where
Man of Steel. I mean, there's of course the reporting with all the ancillary like tie-ins.
Yeah, they had built in.
They made their budget back before the movie came out.
Let's see, but yeah, I listen, guys. I in a hypothetical past, I love Denny Villeneuve. I think his movies. More people need to see his movies. I'm not saying I would be rooting for Dune to bomb. I just think realistically, based on his previous box office, based on the abstractness of the IP, not everybody's like us reading and following this stuff, and the genre itself, I think it would have struggled to break 333. I think it would have struggled, and based on what was spent on it, that wouldn't have been good. Now, would Warner Brothers still with Blade Runner lost them a shit ton of money, but it won them 2 Oscars, so kind of made up for it. And
so there was kind of like there was like we didn't make a lot of money, but we won this, so that always sits well with the studios.
Yeah. Also, we didn't have streaming. 2021 we had streaming, but HBO Max wasn't what it was, and you didn't recognize that back end money that you make. You don't stop counting the money till the money stops coming. So we were in a different. I think that like I said, the fact that they didn't justify a Dune 2 just based on solely on the box office alone tells you what they thought of the box office and what their prospects of the box office. And I'm not, like I said, because watch the whole show, guys. Watch the whole show.
That's a movie that should have been filmed back to back.
Back to back.
You would have imagined like that's like
imagine
what?
how much money you would have saved if you'd have done that, especially where the second one takes place almost entirely. I mean, you would have saved a crap ton of money. And
the amount of sets and costumes and all that shit. Some of that shit, like it wasn't like they used the same shit from the first film. So a lot of that shit had to get remade. You know what I mean? Because it just sits around, or it got damaged, or it falls apart. So yeah, no, I mean, back to back would have made more sense. But I mean, obviously, I think WB was just trying to make sure that they didn't lose too much money. But whatever. But no, Dune 2
back then. Also, let's be fair.
What's that?
They didn't have the best decision makers at the time. Also, I think
they didn't. They didn't have the backbone. They didn't have the backbone. To me, no matter what Dune. Okay, once you've committed to making Dune, commit to making Dune. You can't. Scared money doesn't make any money. So commit to doing it because A, it's cheaper, and B, you do like because Godzilla versus Kong. If they would have gone on the box office of Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla doesn't. If they had already been making GVK before that. If GVK wasn't already in production, it doesn't get made because the box office for King of the Monsters wasn't good.
Yeah, which sucks because I did like King of the Monsters quite a lot.
I enjoyed it. Godzilla vs. Kong, I super enjoyed.
It sucked. It sucked that underperformed, but also it was very fortunate they had Godzilla vs. Kong already in the can, or on the basis of how that one performed. Yeah, then we would have gotten Godzilla vs. Kong.
I thought Godzilla King of the Monsters was badass. I really liked that movie. They did a lot of things that I thought were just really cool. Like when when that one monster comes out, he's the flying one, and it flies over the city, and it just like as he flies over the city, it just fucking rips everything apart. Like, I was like, dude, that's badass.
Okay, so Godzilla King of the Monsters had a massive budget, but it made $387 million. So in that ballpark is what Warner Brothers would have considered a bomb. Right in that ballpark, right? Probably about give it 25 million, give or take, is what they considered a bomb. Had Godzilla vs. Kong not already been in production, we don't get that movie. So, and that's with a marketable IP, another two worldwide. so I gotta just look at that. And I'm like, and I'm not saying I wish this was true. I see how these guys make their decisions. The very fact that you didn't film these back to back tells me that you had a certain amount of money. And if those circumstances with COVID and HBO Max weren't there, we don't get a Dune 2.
Well, at the same time, like Godzilla versus Kong, like that's an easier IP to advertise and to promote. It's Godzilla versus Kong, kind of like it's Batman versus Superman. Even then, it was like, oh, okay. But Godzilla versus Kong, I mean, you want to see that, like, oh, cool, I want to see them fight. That sounds cool. And then that one, I mean, there was a clear winner in their fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
like Godzilla won that fight, and then
he should have never had a chance. I mean, Godzilla should always beat Kong because of it's like me fighting Brad with a flamethrower and a gun and a tail. I'm not gonna even get with kung fu skills. This is like,
but I mean, he won that fight, and then Mechagodzilla showed up, and then they had
Mechagodzilla wiped the fucking. He didn't even get a good punch in on Mechagodzilla. That was hilarious. He got wiped out.
Yeah, that was
cool. He got his ass kicked, but he was already kind of fucked up from the Kong fight, so he was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? He was like, motherfucker.
Well, Kong was Kong was too because he lost that fight.
Yeah.
Well, Kong he had no chance, so he didn't lose. He did the best he could. I mean, literally, he was up against a dragon. With I mean, come on, man, that's not a fair fight. All right, they wanted to film it back to back, but Legendary said they wanted to see if Dune did well and seemed like it would make money. No, that is not the case. It was Warner Brothers execs too, because Warner Brothers execs were going to be on the hook for that first dollar expense for another movie. So it was both of them that were like, and like
because of the Snyder cut.
Well, no, even that. Okay, remember it was a while after the box office had been tallied for Dune Part 1 before they made that decision. They didn't make the decision for Dune Part 2 based on the box office. They made the decision on Dune Part 2 as far as the watchability goes on HBO Max, because they figured there was watchability from, like I said, that 25% who saw it on HBO Max first and then came to the movies. And beyond that, they're like, okay, if we do this next one and we only release it in the theaters, we can capture this watchability on our data. And they were sort of right. It turns out they're right. But if you can consider even the money that it made, I don't consider 450 whatever million that it made a bomb. But in the eyes of the studio who makes the decisions and the financiers who make the decisions, that alone, Dune's box office alone, wasn't going to be it. And like I said, everybody, for the most part, 75% of the people who were going to see Dune and only see Dune on the big screen first, they all saw it. I saw it. You saw everybody who wanted to see that on the biggest screen, just like Kong versus Godzilla. We all saw it in the movie theaters. The people who weren't going to see it, that weren't going to give it a chance in the theater, for the most part, weren't going to. Everybody who saw that movie, less than 25%, saw the movie on the format that they were always going to see it in. So that means without HBO Max, not only do you only make that money, you lose the watchability and you lose the chance to make the case for Dune 2, because that would have been considered a failure without those circumstances. That's why I say streaming is it's part of your math when you're determining whether you're going to make these movies or not.
But I mean, like, I liked initially the whole day and date idea where it would come out in theaters and it would come out on HBO Max. I was like, hey, I kind of like that because I don't want to go to the theater right now, and I'd rather just watch it at home on my big screen with surround sound. Yeah. But I mean, it does take away from the feel. I mean, I remember as a kid, there were countless weekends where, like, we would go to the movies, and that was a huge deal. It was like, wow, like going to the theater was a huge experience.
Same here, man.
Yeah, and so and I think a lot of movie fans these days, they don't have that built-in feel for the movie theater. My kids, when I take them to go see a movie, they're fucking blown away. They're like, oh my God, this is incredible, and that's the feeling that I remember having as a kid. I remember the first time I saw Batman '89 in the theater. I was completely blown away. And granted, I was younger then. I was like 8 years old, and I was like, this is amazing.
Fourth, you're using dinosaur logic that doesn't apply when you're counting money. It just is not. The people who saw Dune was a quality movie, so you're not making sense right now. Dune was a favorably quality, highly reviewed movie. And still 75 to 80% of the people who saw it on streaming did not go to the theaters to see it.
You know, I think, not to switch gears a little bit, but there's certain movies that sort of transcend, like when you saw them in the theater, it like gave you chills. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of them, and there's some that really didn't, and there's some that did, and I remember as a kid, like I was saying, Batman 89 was a big fucking deal for me.
Well, that was big. 13-year-old me was like, dude, Batman was everywhere. We had shed Batman 66 from our psyches and embraced the dark Batman because the Dark Knight Returns allowed for that to happen. Thank you, Frank Miller, for Batman to come home and beat the shit out of people.
And for me, it's like, I mean, there's one in particular I'm still waiting on the opportunity to see theatrically. Then but that some people on here have that I have not.
What's that?
Well, take a guess.
What?
With the Raid 2? What do you?
The Raid 2? Meet the Spartans.
The Snyder Cut.
You lost me. Huh?
Oh, the Snyder Cut. Yeah.
Oh, on a big screen. Yeah. I mean,
I got to see it on the biggest screen possible. It was fucking amazing. There was shit underwater when they show the stronghold at the outside of it. You could see Atlantis in the background with like flying vehicles, and there were details I didn't even know existed. I was like, holy shit. And you could tell that he was setting it up for James Wan to do his Atlantis. Like
he gave him the breathing room there for
but you can see James Wan's Atlantis. You can see some of those details in the background, and you're just like, wow, look at that shit. I've never seen a movie so clear on such a big screen in my entire life. It was unbelievable. And I had to fly down there and then fly back the next day. It was nuts.
And that's actually interesting. You should throw out the Raid 2 because that was another one.
Here we go.
I would kind of classify that or other ones that I have seen theatrically.
You know what's a good movie is Children of Men. Have you guys seen that movie? I think that's a fantastic movie.
I know of it, but I don't think I've seen it.
Man, that movie, I felt dirty after that movie. For some
reason.
Yeah,
that's what I love about it, though.
I felt stepped on after that movie.
Or like, what's another one that's just like, love him or hate him, but like I love, Neil Blomkamp movies. Like obviously District 9, badass. I liked Elysium. There were some aspects of it that I was kind of like, okay, I get it. But
that was a risky movie. That was a risk.
It was
a risk with that movie. So I was, it didn't do well, but I did it. I liked the movie.
I liked it.
Movies,
and by the way, William, this is interesting. We were talking about it because this actually does kind of factor into the Roadhouse discussion, which you guys talked a bit about that on the Vodka stream. Of course, we're doing the watch party for that tomorrow.
Everybody
wants to hop in, there was, of course, the whole pre-release controversy of Doug Liman and Amazon being in dispute of he wanted it to go into theaters and they wanted it to be primarily Amazon Prime. I will say now, having seen it, and this is like it's kind of a thing where it's like you do need to actually see it to kind of better grasp like kind of where he's coming from. I think, but the way like a lot of the fight scenes are filmed, I got the sense like okay, I get where he's coming from here. Where it's like he definitely did. There are aspects of the camera work and a lot of the kind of the ways they kind of juice up a lot of the action in it where it's like I understand now kind of again it's like I get Amazon's perspective too about like this serving their broader business model, but from his perspective as a filmmaker it's like I understand his perspective on that where it's like he clearly intended a lot of this to be seen with a crowd, so it's like after seeing it I kind of have a better grasp, I think, on where both sides are coming from.
And yes, Aztec, Alfonso Cuarón directed that Children of Men. I'm not saying that Denis Villeneuve did that. I was saying in general, I like.
No, you're talking about the type of film. I got it. Yeah. I think that the director, you're Rob you have a right, and most directors will want their stuff on a big screen. How he handled it was outright fucking ignorant and stupid. He made himself look like a jackass. And
he ended up having to walk it back anyway because he did
he made himself look a lot. And like I said, a lot of people. I think he may. Hopefully, it doesn't. But I think you hurt your career when you handle things right. Not your opinion. Your opinion is your opinion. What you think is right or wrong, these things that's your opinion. You're allowed to have that. But you got to realize you work for hire. Every studio is looking at how you handle things, whether it be an actor, actress, director, how you handle things. It's like, do I want to deal with that guy again? If we have to make a decision, we make a movie, we have to make a decision financially. If somebody else buys it and wants it for their purposes, do I got to deal with this headache now? And he's a good director. He should. He should. Talking
about Doug Liman.
Yeah. I mean,
Doug Liman is the kind of director where it's like, his previous films speak so highly of him. Like, he did Swingers, he did all the Bourne movies, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I thought was just all right, but it was fun. But a fucking Edge of Tomorrow? Are you kidding me? That movie is amazing.
Yeah, you need to come out and say
that didn't perform well.
No, it didn't. That movie.
But it's performed well. It's made its money. It's made its money
now.
But
after theaters, it took off. When everyone started seeing it on the movie channels and all that, dude, that is one of the movies. It's so well done, and the chemistry between Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt was so good. And that, to me, I mean, look, I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan, but to me, that was one of his best films, was Edge of Tomorrow, because he was able to be a douchebag who had to figure out how to be a hero, and it was good.
Don't spoil it for people, because there's a lot of people still waiting to see that movie.
That's a good movie.
You can watch it on PVOD. But yeah, if he'd came out and said, you know what, I think this should have been on cinemas or in a cinema, that would have been okay. But when he came out and said some of the other stuff he said, like he was lied to and this and that, I'm like, and then you had to have Jake Gyllenhaal come out and actually say, no, this was always what we were going to be doing. It's just it was a bad look. And like I said, I understand 100%. If you are a streaming service or the box office isn't your primary breadwinner, then if you don't want to put your movie in a theater, then that's on you. Netflix, I think Netflix is people saying, well, Netflix should have put this on. No, they shouldn't have. Unless it's going to be Oscar worthy and they have to meet that qualification. They are selling a streaming service. They are not selling you the box office experience.
Yeah, that's not what they're going after.
Services. So it doesn't make no sense. I wanted Rebel Moon. Remember, Brad, we were talking about this for a while. Hey, you know what? Everybody's like, wait, we should hashtag get at least Rebel Moon in the theaters. I'm like, hashtag all you want to. I as much as I want to go see this on a big screen, no matter what version it is, I highly doubt it's going to be released in any relevancy on a big screen, because that's not what Netflix is selling you.
Yeah.
That makes no sense for Netflix to put Rebel Moon in the theaters. There's no sense for them to put Rebel Moon Part 2 in the theaters. Rebel Moon 3, 4, 5, 10.
But they did put it in theaters, but it was only in select theaters.
Yeah, ones that they actually had the profit margin control over.
Right.
Where they didn't have to pay for the,
But what did they do, though? They made that more of like a fan event, as opposed to saying, let's just put it on theaters for a couple of weeks. No, they made it like these unique, this unique fan event.
Because that's what they did with Army of the Dead, and it's like that's how I initially saw Army of the Dead, was during the theater run I had a week before it dropped on Netflix.
Yeah, but it was a really, really small one though. I mean, it wasn't.
That was only for. I thought it was for 30 days, but it might only been for a couple of weeks.
No,
I saw Army of the Dead in the theater, and I really enjoyed it in the theater, much better than I did on watching it at home on Netflix. It was better in the theater.
Yeah, and even then, that made no sense for them to do that then.
And that was again, that was still like at the ass end of COVID, and like we went and saw it. I went and saw it with Ryan and ACS, and the theater wasn't even packed, but it was cool to see it though. We really enjoyed it.
But here's the thing, and I remember they did an ad campaign for that. So Netflix had to pay, because I still got the patches and I still got the posters at the store, the Las Vegas patches. They did a quite, for what it was, a quite expensive ad campaign for that. I think they learned their lesson for that, because once again, you're paying for the ad, because the theaters you're not going to take it for a medium release if you don't commit to promoting the fact that it's in the theater. And that money comes from the studio. Not only that, the dollar that comes back is 35% less. So it's not only diminishing returns, you're kind of losing money. When that's not what you're selling. Not only are you losing money or marginally breaking even, which that kind of sucks too, but that's not even what you sell. I don't want you going anywhere else to see my shit when I have the streaming service for the shit. That's literally that's what they sell.
Well, and
what they sell.
Kind of going back to when I was making the comparison to the Raid 2, and actually had some flashbacks to this when Everything Everywhere All at Once was initially being released, because this had actually kind of a similar rollout. Because for anybody who didn't see, because I can recount this because I was very psyched for them, who hasn't seen the Raid movies theatrically, what they did, they started kind of regionally with it. So it was done over both of them. They were done over like a 3-week period where like first they put them out in like New York, LA, then they put them out the second weekend. It would be like other cities like Chicago and DC, Miami, kind of that. And then it was the third week. That's when it finally went wide, for both the Raid movies. And so that kind of made both those experiences, that much more, ones that I kind of cherish that much more because it was a very, it was still fairly limited in terms of just like how long it was out theatrically. But those are that kind of adds to my my fandom and my constantly bringing them up on as far better watch parties than Meet the Spartans will ever be, despite how much you guys want to torture me.
Real quick, Austin, looking at the numbers, it made no sense, and that's why they didn't do it again. You made $1 million in the box office,
I think,
and you took $1 million at the box office minus the cinema is 35%. All right, and then minus what you spent on all those posters and stuff that we got and patches and stuff we got. It didn't make it, and that's probably why they didn't do it again. You gotta have to learn.
But not only that, though. I mean, you're coming out of COVID, and you have a movie that's by a acclaimed director who makes movies for theaters in Zack Snyder. So I think it was also a move to kind of put Netflix back on the map in terms of like, hey, look, we're going to have a limited release for this movie because we want to make sure that, we give it as much as possible, as much bump as possible, because we want to stay in the Zack Snyder business. And we want to make sure that, because I'm sure he wanted this film to be in the theaters as well. I'm sure after that, then when it came to Rebel Moon, he was like, yeah, look, this is a streaming movie. I get it. Let's just keep doing that.
Yeah, I think he's kind of adapted to the streaming
exactly. And also, I know everyone's talking about the Dream Lens. The Dream Lens worked way better in theaters than it did like on any TV. It was not as like when you watch on TV, the Dream Lens sometimes is kind of like, whoa, it kind of fucks your vision. But in the theater, it didn't have that effect. It was really cool. It was so big, Yeah.
I just think it comes down to you are what you are. So whatever it is that you're selling, I'm not sending you anywhere to go see that.
I need to highlight this comment though, because there's no possible way you can not be trolling here, Bradley, when you tell me that Madam Web is better than Rebel Moon.
No, fuck no. I think Madam Web had some cool aspects, and it could have been really cool.
One of these days I'll see the movie that they actually meant to release. I want to see the movie that was actually written and done.
Utterly refuse to take that statement seriously, Bradley. I'm sorry.
No way. I mean, Madam Web was supposed to be, Terminator meets Spider-Man, which I think would have been really cool, but instead it was a shitty movie with shitty dialogue and shitty acting.
That made a profit. And
it made a profit, but if I didn't take much.
VOD, yeah,
but I mean, like the Jungle Spider-Man was like, what? What is happening? Why is this even in the final cut? I was like, Jesus Christ!
And you have Peter Parker in the movie, but anyway.
And listen, William and I, we were like trying to be voices of moderation leading up to where it's like, listen, everybody, chance. It's like let's see what's on the store, and then we see it's like, no, this thing really is shit.
Yeah, because they changed their minds on the movie that they were making. If they would have made the movie that they meant to make, and actually that you kind of see that they ADR'd over the whole movie, you'd have had a better chance. But hey, Brad, it looked better.
ADR.
Yeah, it looked better in theaters and not shitty on Netflix. But hey, you're Netflix, do you care about how shitty it looks? Exactly. You're making movies for Netflix. You're making movies to bring people to your streaming service. They don't care about the comparison to the theater any more than Amazon does or should. I understand where you guys are coming from because you're cinephiles. You want to see it on theater, but as a business model, there's no way. If I'm doing the money counting for Netflix, and you tell me we got this cool thing, we got everybody talking about, where you're going to take it somewhere else. You're gonna take it somewhere else, and you're gonna give away some of our money to do it. And on top of that, you're gonna give away some more money to promote it. How about you have a seat in here, have some wine,
and that's my point with when it came to Army of the Dead. It was like, hey, let's give it a limited theatrical run because we need to show a select, whoever goes to see it in theaters that this is some of the shit we have to offer. But it came to Rebel Moon, they didn't have to do that anymore because they were like, yeah, we've already established this audience. The fan base knows.
And the relationship,
yeah, exactly. So I think that, again, that's why they did it. They knew it was coming out of COVID. It was kind of like, hey, let's make sure that, this is, I mean, at the time, I think that was, I don't know if to be true. I shouldn't say this, but I think that was like one of the biggest directors they had at that time. Now, they've done other stuff with other directors. Like even Spielberg did a freaking UFO series for Netflix and all that. So,
and they're doing it right because where everybody's, we can't invest all this money into this and that. And Netflix say, fuck it, we're gonna spend some money. They need to spend money on Mindhunter. Bring Mindhunters back, damn it. Bring it.
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I've seen it floating around a bit on Twitter and also on YouTube that somebody finally did
Brad getting in trouble on Twitter.
No, I'm not gonna pull it up.
Must be a day that ended why.
No. I didn't run to that one dickhead. So, you guys know who I'm talking about if you've seen some of that. But, but it's floating around a bit on Twitter and on YouTube. Somebody finally did the if Madam Web came out in 2007 kind of fan edits.
Oh, I didn't even watch. To be honest with you, I didn't like the edit that the studio did to their own movie. So
and that's the thing. It's like it's so bad. It's as if it came out in 2007. You don't even need to edit it.
It's crazy what they ended up doing with that movie.
Knowing what was supposed to be in that movie, knowing what that movie was supposed to be, and that hurt. Like, why did you do this?
Yeah, I mean, the whole diner scene. I could see what they were going for. I was like, now I see it. Now I see what you guys are trying to do, and this whole movie got screwed up. It's such a mess.
I'm really. It is. I do not think it's an exaggeration to say that Madam Web is Catwoman levels bad.
No, Catwoman was fucking horrific and a waste of a Sharon Stone appearance. There's nobody. Listen, the actors and actresses in this movie were borderline okay. I don't think much of Dakota Johnson as an actress, to be honest with you.
Borderline okay, really.
I had an Academy Award winner and a multiple Academy Award nominated actress, and Catwoman, and that movie failed on levels that just was painful. And I saw that movie on deployment, so it's like,
that's. I'm sure that made the experience that just.
Bradley, even your namesake, Catwoman's worse.
No, Madam Web is Madam Web is absolutely it's every bit as bad as you've heard. And even that's the thing is that even a lot of the cast of like Dakota Johnson. And
now we're just being trolled. We're just being trolled now. Okay, guys. All right.
There is. You
got anything else? You got anything else?
No. I'm pulling this back up. Fourth, there is absolutely positively no way on God's green earth you type that with a straight face.
He's trolling you, Brad. They know what we respond to now.
No,
we've been on the air together.
No. Even by his trolling standards, this is like.
He has no standards when it comes to his trolling. That's the whole thing about him. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's where I'm going to end it tonight. I don't have my 988 thing up here, but I started the show off with our quest to get to 15,000. Now we've adjusted that. We've adjusted that goal. I think we can reach that goal. I think we'll reach it by 24th. Also, we have the AFSP walk out here, and we will be handing them a giant check because we will be splitting that amount between the local here for their walk and then the national. So people, not only Vegas, you definitely need AFSP, this city. But it works everywhere around. And like I said, just continue to go to the places that make you happy. Have fun. I know we're talking about this stuff. It's like it's not. We're not doing nuclear plants here. It's imaginary lizards and monkeys and aliens and stuff. So come here to and leave here happy. That's my only goal for this show is that everybody who participates in it and everybody who is in the chat, you don't have to agree, but leave happier than what you came into. That's what that helps your mindset. And, like I said, I get messages from people all the time that our show, me, Brad, and the people who've been on hosts before, everybody part, that the listening to the show helps them get through some tough times. I am blown away by that because I'm a YouTube nobody. The fact that I'm having any effect in your day is awe-inspiring for me. I hope we all can continue to do that. Brad, where can they find you?
Excuse me. You guys can find me on Twitter. You guys can find me on Twitter and Vero. You can find me someone on Facebook. You can, of course, check out all my writing and commentary and all the nerd topics we discuss on here. And of course, you can find me on the Sci-Fi Center, breaking all this down, doing all our watch parties. And one last thing I will leave you all with is that this man who left this comment right here, this is the guy who made the donation that made it so that I have to do a Meet the Spartans watch party. So that should tell you everything you should know there about how seriously you should take this statement right here.
But even good could come out of fourth. He got us to 10,000. So Nicotina.
Yeah, you could come out of fourth. You just have to you have to pry, you have to reach down so deep. It's like yeah.
the things we do for a charitable cause. Nicotina.
Hashtag blame Brad.
Yes, of course.
That's all I gotta say. You can follow me on YouTube on at the Nicotina Show. I also have a sports channel called Dre Area Sports. Follow that one as well. And we're getting ready to relaunch my third channel with my brother, and that's gonna be called Beyond the Unknown. So I'll be putting out information about that as time goes on. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicotina_show, and also on Instagram as well at Nicotina Show.
I didn't say take all day. Damn, that was like
I just it's like I started to branch out to other channels. Started these other projects because it's just fun to do. I love talking about pop culture and comic books and all that, but it's fun to talk about some other shit too. And so I just ordered a fucking green screen, so when I do those, I'll have a different background, because every time I do sports and I have like all this shit in the background, everybody's like, "What is this? What am I watching?"
Yeah, well, you got mostly DC and Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, Top Gun Maverick. There he is, right there. I got
all right, guys.
Right there. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to point this out. A sentient human being with a supposedly functioning adult brain actually typed the sentence.
Wow, let's not be mean to fourth. Come on now.
I know.
He's
a big contributor.
Yeah, there we go. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon for the rival, and then later on in that evening for Roadhouse, and then we will do our normal, because I got a brand new laptop, so we'll be doing our normal overnight stream from the Sci-Fi Center and not my little den here. See you tomorrow.
Later, guys.